All right, so let's talk about once you've taken a call from a seller and you've filled out the complete seller lead sheet, what should you do the final few minutes of the call and what decisions are you going to be making? Really, there's three options. Option A, you set an appointment. And you should always set an appointment if you think there's potential to this lead or it looks like it might be a deal. If it smells like a deal, it looks like a deal, it has any resemblance of a deal, it has any feeling towards being a deal, set an appointment. Because remember, you can always cancel the appointment when you run the comparables if you don't like what you see. So I would always lean towards option A if there's any potential. Option B is if the seller's not motivated, but maybe you're not sure, or you want to run the comparables before you actually set an appointment, then I would lean towards doing some further due diligence, and I would tell the seller that I'm going to follow up with them in a couple hours, and that way it allows you more time to analyze and actually run the comparables before you make a decision and go drive out and look at a property or something of that nature. And then there's option C. Option C is you know the area, you know it's not a deal, the seller's not motivated, so you might test with a low verbal offer, right, just to see if there's anything you missed. Of course, most of the time there isn't, and the seller is going to tell you no to your offer, and then it's a dead lead, right? So sometimes if you know the areas very well, you can lean on option C in particular scenarios. So let's talk about option A, and let's talk about what to do and how to set an appointment and the importance of setting appointments. One, always remember this. If it looks like a deal, set an appointment for that day if you can and if your schedule will allow for that. And don't give the seller any options, because the more time you give a seller, right, the more they could call other people. They might call other investors to see what they'd be willing to pay. Don't give them an incredible amount of time. So when I'm setting an appointment, I'm going to find out if they're going to be home later that day, and then I'm going to give them two options to meet with me, and they're going to be 4 or 5 o'clock. So let's say I took a call in the morning. I would ask the seller, I'd say, hey, John, are you going to be available or around the property later today? Yeah, I'm going to be home later today. Great. If John's wife is involved, and say, is your wife going to be there as well? Yeah, she'll be here after 4 o'clock. Then I'd say, well, perfect. I could meet with you at 4 or 5 o'clock. What works better for you? Don't ask them, when can you meet? Because sometimes sellers who are in financial distress or they have property distress, a lot of times they might be in that situation because they've procrastinated quite a bit. So don't give people to the time to procrastinate. Meet within that day. Remember, speed and leads is very important. How quickly you're out there looking at the property, meeting with them is very important. So when you're finishing the call, set the appointment. Now, option B is, once again, if you're not sure, maybe the seller's not that motivated, but you're not really sure what this property is worth and you want to run some comparables. So then what I would do is I would tell the seller, I'd say, hey, John, are you going to be home in a few hours? In, let's say, 2 hours? Perfect. Well, I'm going to give you a call back at noon, and between now and then, I'm going to do some due diligence. I'm gonna run my comparables, do some due diligence on the property, just find out. And that way I can give you a ballpark figure of where we would be at. Because remember, if this is not looking like a deal, I'm still going to test with a verbal offer just to make sure I didn't miss anything. My verbal offer is going to be low, and it's going to be a non-committed verbal offer. I mean, I'm saying don't hold me to this number, but this would be the range that we're going to be at. That's would be something that I would say to the seller when I call them back. Then I would run my comparables and I'd call the seller back at that time point. And we're going to talk about that in the course where we go through running comparables and how to present offers and verbal offers versus in-person offers and things of that nature. But that would be option B, would be to follow up. Now, if you run your comparables and it looks like a deal, then you call the seller back and set an appointment to go look at it in person. And then option C, once again, is it's not a deal. So you might test the seller by saying, hey, I know we'd be significantly less than what you're looking to offer. I might throw out a number, over the phone. We'd be in the 150 to 160,000 range. Don't hold me to it, but that's, and maybe the seller's looking for 220, right? I'm still going to test it, and if I know the area, I'm confident enough to do that. But I'm not going to set an appointment and go waste my time looking at a property where the seller is not motivated. So that's, once again, a wrap up of what happens at the very end of the call when it comes to setting appointments.